Hey folks, today we're going to be talking about one of the most powerful go-to-market strategies, which is using a land and expand or seed and grow model. Now I'm going to be talking about what it is, why I think it's so powerful, and how to amplify it. All right, let's dive into it. Hey folks, Bill Masitis here, former CMO of Slack, before that CMO of Zendesk, and before that SVP of Marketing at Salesforce. Thanks so much for joining SaaS CMO Pro. My mission here is to educate marketers, CEOs, VCs on modern SaaS marketing. And seed and grow, land and expand, there's a bunch of different phrases for it, I found is like a really powerful growth strategy, right? Especially when you're thinking about how to grow, how to do go-to-market, how to get into new companies, new geos, new segments. All right, so let's start off. What the heck is land and expand, seed and grow, right?
What does it even mean?
So the basic concept here is you start off with a company and some small usage starts happening at that company, right? So this is usually part of a product-led growth strategy where you have some type of free plan or a discounted plan where someone can go in and just start using it within their company. Normally, when you talk about land and expand and seed and grow, you're talking about like larger companies, so mid-market or enterprise. And the basic idea here is that, someone brings the tech with them into that company, it starts to spread, right? It starts off with one small group, then it's in another group, then another group, and it kind of gives like a beachhead, right? So, even if you're in the sales motion, it allows you to kind of think about it and go into this company, and as opposed to just selling top down where no one's using it, no one knows about your product, you already have like these pockets of usage within the company.
You mean I've been here the whole time?
Why do I think it's so powerful? A land and expand or seed and grow model eliminates a lot of friction in the sales process, right? So we would see this consistently at Slack, Zendesk, at Salesforce, where when we go in for a lot of these larger deals, there are already pockets of usage of that software within the company, right? We already had people using it. We had people that liked it, and it was naturally spreading within the organization. That made the deal cycle much easier, right? So when sales would go in, there was already usage. They could find within that land and expand or seed and grow, you could find out, well, hey, who are the people that love us the most that are using it, right?
Jesus, who are these people?
So it's like, for instance, we use Net Promoter Score extensively, even down to the individual user level. And we could find out, hey, if maybe 50 people are using us at IBM, all right, well, what is the actual Net Promoter Score on each of those 50 people? And you would find like, well, who loves us the most? Who scored us 10 out of 10 on the NPS survey? Who said, oh my God, like this is the best thing since sliced bread, as my dad would say. You've transformed my team. This is fantastic. I love you guys, right?
You are the best thing on the radio.
That's probably a good person to ask if they can help out, right? Hey, would you mind serving as a testimonial for us? Would you mind introducing us to another team? Would you mind connecting us with your procurement team? You have evangelists already in there. And a seed and grow motion, usually, again, like I said, it's usually part of a product-led growth, which means you usually have a product that's simple, easy to use, fun to use. It tends to score high on the NPS scale. And so you have a lot of people that are using it and like to use it, right? And so you have a lot of internal allies.
You work for me now.
Other kind of like cool things and why I think it's so powerful is it allows you to grow just much more efficiently. You already have, again, a lot of the work that you would normally do if no one's using your product is you're going to have to run a ton of ad campaigns. You're going to have to run a ton of nurturing. You're going to have to do a lot of, outbound and finding out, mapping out the organization and cold calling. And when you already have existing usage, you know where to start, right? You can start right there and those people can help you map out the organization. It helps you grow more efficiently, right? And sales teams tend to love it because they're not starting at zero. They're not having it like I have to explain everything about the space and our company and what we do and who we are. Like a lot of times they already know it.
I already know who you are.
So again, very powerful. I think it's incredibly powerful. Okay, so the third area is like, how do you amplify this? How do you get this motion, even supercharged, growing even faster? So there's a lot of different strategies and tactics you can use. I talked, one was, hey, identify those evangelists, right? That's always going to be a big one. A second way you can kind of amplify this is you can start to do ROI proof points on the existing usage that's already happening at that company, right? So a lot of times, like in marketing, for instance, you will, we usually have some type of ROI calculator, and this is broadly based on all the companies that are using you, and right, you get X level of, return on investments and whatever KPIs your company helps move the needle on, you have data on, and that's great, right? But some companies might be a little skeptical still, like, well, I don't know, what about our company, right?
But What about us?
Well, the cool thing here is you already have an existing pocket of usage, right? You can go and send that survey, either in product or email to the users that are already using that and ask them, right? Like, what are your big KPIs, right? So for Slack, for us, it was like, hey, how much more productive do you think you are? How much less email are you seeing? How much less meetings are you in? How much has it improved the culture? Whatever your KPIs are, right? You can start and get those benchmarks against your existing usage. And then when you're trying to roll this out for an enterprise-wide deal, all of a sudden you have these great KPIs for their company, right?
Look what I got.
Incredibly positive there, incredibly powerful as well. Another strategy you can do to amplify it is kind of getting back to your pricing and packaging. So there's two levers here you have. The first is I'm a huge fan of freemium plans. So I've done an entire series on product-led growth, and I've done a video just on freemium. If you want to learn about that, I'll put the links in the comments below. But have some type of freemium plan so that, again, for these mid-market enterprise companies, you're kind of enabling like someone, usually you always have an early adopter within different teams, right? And that person's going to want to go out there and they're more on top of like the newest tech, and they're usually going to want to try it out and bring it into the company, right? So when you reduce friction there and you allow people, on a free trial, which is okay, but I'd even argue a true freemium plan, but just, reduce friction, let them get in there, let them start getting some usage on it. That's going to help the seed and grow motion. The other thing on the flip side is using more advanced ELAs, right? So the idea here is, and I've used these in the past, where you basically say, hey, company X, you have 100,000 people at this company, and maybe, 100 people are using it, right? Your software right now. And you basically say like, hey, okay, let's do we'll put you on an enterprise plan, you get all these extra bells and whistles, but we'll set up the pricing so that, hey, in that first year, you only pay for those 100 users, but anyone else in the company can use it for free, right? We're not going to charge you at all.
I'm offering you my services free of charge.
And the base idea there is, you're selling them that like, hey, if people are getting value out of it, like it should naturally, spread within the organization. And then at the end of the year, we'll true up, right? So maybe after year 2 now, 1,000 people are using it. And you kind of do the same thing. Okay, great. For this year, we're only going to charge you for those 1,000 users, but we're going to let anyone else in the company use it for free. And then, now it grows to maybe like 10,000 people or faster, right? And a lot of this depends on like how easy you make it to, invite coworkers and, have the right domains and the right virality loops. But you basically like structure it, an ELA so that you are reducing kind of this institutional pricing resistance, right? So it's, oh yeah, we can start using it. It's already been approved, signed off on. And then companies like it too, because again, they're not only paying for if people are using it. A lot of companies feel a bit burnt when they buy SaaS products, and they're per seat licensing, and they're paying for all these seats, but no one's really using it. Now, obviously, a lot of the world's moved to usage-based pricing, which somewhat addresses that, right? Like you only essentially get charged if you're using it. But that model I found was really effective for kind of spreading within organizations and getting more adoption and usage, which started off with this land and expand. Now it's really expanding, right? So anyway, those are a couple reasons, a couple strategies on how to amplify that land and expand or seed and grow model. I think this is absolutely critical if you are an AI startup, CEO, board, if you're B2B SaaS, you have to start embracing, I think, these more modern go-to-market models. And seed and grow, land and expand, it's kind of a subcomponent of a product-led growth strategy, but it allows you to just grow within these organizations much, much faster than the alternative, which is like the dusty old playbook, which is we're just going to outbound in and have a big BDR team and cold call everyone and try to sell a wall-to-wall deal. And you can see like that's really hard to do, and it's going to take a long time. So anyways, I'd love to hear from you guys. Have you used land and expand? Have you used the seed and grow type model? Has it been effective? Put it in the comments below. I read all of them. And thanks again for joining SaaS CMO Pro.